Let's go ahead and fire a recording off. There we go. Okay, you may fire when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you, Christian. And, all right, in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Perilous World Radio. It's getting more perilous all the time. You may not have heard this in the mainstream news, but there was a mass school shooting in Canada. And the mass shooting, well, that wasn't the main feature, as Tim Pool, he's really on top of this stuff, describes in this clip. So I'll start today with some current news and an interesting overview.
Yesterday, we got word of a serious tragedy in Canada. 9 dead, 25 hurt in a school shooting. And while this is a story, it's tragic, and of course, it's worth talking about. There is an underlying story most don't know about, but has become the focal point of this conversation. And that is, the individual in question may in fact be a transgender male. And so this would be maybe the 5th or 6th time in the past several years we have seen a mass shooting incident or killing incident by a trans person. I'm not saying this suggests that trans people themselves are violent. In fact, my argument would be more so that violent people who are unwell latch themselves onto some of these communities. The bigger story outside of this is the cover-up. Well, right now, it looks like this individual may in fact be transgender. The corporate press, the mainstream media, as it were, is just saying it's a gun person that actually came from law enforcement, an unidentified individual, or a, quote, woman in a dress. When have you ever described a woman as a woman in a dress? And immediately, when the phrase woman in a dress came out from the media, many began asking, why would you describe a female person this way? Now, if it was a man in a dress, you would say man in a dress. That is something that people would notice. And that's where people began to suspect this may in fact be a transgender mass shooter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are living in a media matrix, and the matrix is operated, the levers of it are operated in dark, dingy places. And as we look at the world that we live in, it's really interesting to note that now this is going on almost 2 weeks of Nancy Guthrie, blah, 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 all day long, every day. But see, before that, and again, this is a bait and switch. I just want to make that point. This is a psyop, part of it. Before that, it was a month, at least or more, of ICE agents in struggles with psychotic, blue-haired, overweight, lip ring, crazy people, okay? And it was getting to be too much. It was becoming overwhelming. It was all we saw pretty much all day long. Maybe there was nothing else to talk about. I don't know. But now the bait and switch has happened. And so now they're taking, and this is again going on 2 weeks of Nancy Guthrie all day long. Yes, I mean, it's a terrible story. But at the same time, is it a psyop? And that's my question. Because if it was just anybody else, think about what I'm saying. If it was anybody else, would it be getting world attention, international attention? If it was just any other person, because people go every day missing, children, people in general, they just disappear and nobody cares. But somehow we are all focused on the mother of Savannah Guthrie. So to put it in perspective, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who I have real respect for, this guy, he really gets it. Here's what he says.
The movie The Matrix is not science fiction. It's a documentary. Every human, and it's a fact, Every human first 7 years is download a hypnosis. The brain of a child under 7 is in a lower vibrational frequency. When you put wires on a person's head, you read electroencephalograph, reading brain activity. A child below 7 has a lower vibration than consciousness. It's called theta. Theta is imagination. Oh, that's how kids play a tea party with mud pies, but to them it's a real thing. A kid rides a broom, it's a horse. That's theta, imagination. Theta is also hypnosis. And the idea is this: before you can become conscious, if you don't have any programs, what are you going to be conscious of?
Overcoming programs. Now, what have we got? We've got this giant psyop bait and switch with Nancy Guthrie, because they can do this to us. They've done it over and over and over in the enlightened days, different than today. Not so long ago, it was called red herrings. They would throw out the Hegelian dialectic. Anybody? Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. They would throw out this stuff: gay marriage, right to life, doctor-assisted suicide. It was always a red herring. And I believe that Nancy Guthrie, even though if it's really a real thing, it's terribly tragic, but at the same time, is it worthy of international focus? I mean, obsessive focus. If you turn on the TV at any given point in time, or I don't know, not so much radio, because radio people, it's all theater of the mind, so they have to have something else to talk about. But at the same time, I have this weird sense that this is a psyop. I really do. So I'll play one more here from Dr. Bruce Lipton.
95% of our life is coming from the programs of life, how to live life, that we get in the first 7 years of life. That's why poor people stay poor and rich people stay rich. So nature makes the first 7 years. What kind of programs are required to live on this planet? I say, how do you get them? Theta is hypnosis. You just watch. You watch your parents, you watch your siblings, and your community, because you have to learn how many 100,000 rules. Think about it. Just to be a functional member of a family and a functional member of a community, there are rules. Teach an infant these rules. It's like, you don't have to. First 7 years, they observe it and just download it.
Yes, it is a psyop. And hypnosis, he keeps saying the word hypnosis, but you have to understand that if we're going to look at hypnosis objectively and see it for what it is, we allow ourselves to be influenced, period. Because we don't have a firewall, and this is what I've been talking about for so many years. We don't have a firewall for the mind. Everything that we see, it's like a screen door in a submarine. It just floods right in. And it is tragic in the sense that because we have so many information disseminators, malware, our programs are contaminated. All of our programs are contaminated. Now you add to this idea that we are always going to be subject to the strongest influence externally, unless, of course, you have a firewall for your mind, and then you can detect it and deflect it. But if you don't, which most people literally do not have a firewall that protects the mind from the mal-influences of life, they are swept along, and it is a tidal wave of information dragging them along, dragging everyone along in a thought wave. And it is something that has to be recognized. It has to be dealt with properly. And then add to this, and I have some very interesting information on it, which I will play in the next segment, the addition of mind control substances. Now, so you have mind control through external influences, and then you have mind control substances. Key among them, and most recently, is the legalization of marijuana. And it's, oh man, I just saw a study that, older people have higher cognitive functions that use marijuana or cannabis, whatever. Oh yeah, the psyop is never ending, never ending. Old people, yeah, it's a great market, by the way, huge market for the sale of mind-altering drugs. However, there is no market for Be Still and Know, the exercise that leads you back to God. There's no market for it because people love their distractions. FHU.com is where you find it. I'll be right back. Three, two, one. And welcome back. So the story of the trance shooter, alleged trance shooter, nobody knows the name of this particularly messed up human being. And because the mainstream media doesn't want you to see the truth. The truth is the canceller, the great canceller of lies. It doesn't mean that the effect of lies diminish right away, but light shines through the darkness, as the Bible says, and the darkness does not comprehend it. And so we have this lie machine that constantly spits out lies. We've come to understand that that is a media influence complex, media influence, including all of the paid shills, the people who are, the bucket carriers, those who have the talking points, and you've seen them. You've seen compilations of these news people saying exactly the same thing in almost exactly the same cadence, repeating the lines across thousands of outlets. And they don't have any capacity, nor do they want to think for themselves. That would endanger their position as a newscaster or whatever it is that they do. Now, there's people like Joe Rogan. Why is Joe Rogan so popular? He's not one of them. He is not part of the mass formation psychosis. And psychosis is a key word, and I'll tell you why. Because it means literally the inability to distinguish between what is right and wrong. And Dr. Robert Malone, who was on the Joe Rogan podcast, they started talking about mass formation psychosis. And the people who were handling and managing them started flipping out. See, this is one thing that they don't want you to understand. Hypnosis only works as long as you give it permission. If you become aware of it, why did Jesus say, know the truth and it shall make you free? Because the truth interferes with the programming, the signal, the code. The truth interferes with their ability to continue influencing you. Know the truth and it shall make you free. It actually pries you away from the influences. Now, you can reject the truth at any given point, which many people do. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. Okay. God wants you to have everything you ever wanted. No. God wants you only one thing from you. Don't pretend to be him. Don't play with reality. And this is what every little ego does. This is where it all begins. The ego. Like Bruce Lipton was talking about children. They have a mud pie and they think it's, they make it in their imagination something like a full 3-course meal. This is what adults are doing too, except for they have more sophisticated imagery and they have more sophisticated ways of escaping, sensual ways, food, and drink, and vape, and smoke, and porn, and every other thing they have to escape from the reality that they are not God. That's what it really boils down to. So, Megyn Kelly recently had Alex Berenson, and I thought, oh, you know what? I haven't seen that guy for years on television. He used to be on Laura Ingram's show. He used to be on all these big shows talking about the dangers of getting the shot. I don't want to get canceled. So, and you know what I'm talking about. He was a prominent figure until they decided no more. So Megyn Kelly had him on, and this is a little bit of their conversation.
They censored you. They smeared you. All along, you're trying to save lives. And you've been sounding the alarm on marijuana for a long time now. And when these cases keep coming up of these shooters, and everybody says, what can we do? It's a free country, you know, like people, what you can't, like what, okay, the Republicans say fortify the soft targets and we need more mental health. And the Democrats say seize all the guns. And you're over there jumping up and down going, hello, I see a common theme in virtually all of these. Would somebody please listen to me?
Look, it's interesting because Tell Your Children came out in 2019, the beginning of 2019, and the left, they jumped it, right? They hated the book. They hated the science. They said didn't know what I was talking about. I was making things up. I mean, I think the book is its own best evidence. This, you know, it's an accumulation of studies that were done really over the last 30 years and talking to psychiatrists and talking to people with mental illness and their families about cannabis, marijuana, which a lot of people just use pure THC now. They use vapes. That certainly if you use that over time, and if you use a lot of it, and unfortunately, if you start when you're in your teens, your early teens especially, you're at higher risk for developing severe mental illness. That's the one that you can't really fit. And a permanent psychotic disorder, schizophrenia in particular, that's not something I would wish on anybody. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It ruins people's lives. It destroys families. It's very difficult societally. So when people talk, well, marijuana, maybe it makes people fat or it makes them lazy or it ruins their motivation, all those things are pretty clearly true too. To me, the problem that has the greatest societal impact is this issue of psychosis. Psychosis is a risk factor in violence, okay? And it's a risk factor in two particularly bad kinds of violence. The first kind is violence against essentially innocent family members. Crimes where the cops say, we don't understand why this happened, or the neighbors say, we don't understand why this happened. This 18-year-old kid slaughtered his family in their sleep. And we just don't get it. That's almost always psychosis driven. And when I say almost always, I mean almost always.
Psychosis driven behavior. But what causes psychosis? And it is an interference, a scrambling of signals in the self, let's just say the otherwise conscious self, that would be able to recognize. Little children know the difference between right and wrong. They know. How is it they know? Well, intuitively, they know. So psychosis is the disruption of your natural intuitive faculties. And what is it that the Be Still and Know exercise restores to you as you get out of your thought stream and allow yourself to reconnect with your normal higher self? It is intuitive. See, this is why Jesus said, know the truth. So to know the truth, one must desire the truth. You must want to know the truth. Otherwise, you could say, no, tell me, I don't want to know. FHU.com is where you find out more. Three, two, one. All right, continuing with the show. So here's the deal. And another person that I have quite a bit of respect for, even though he's a little wackadoodle, is researcher Greg Braden. Greg Braden has made some great discoveries in his quest for truth. Here in this clip, he talks about and I've talked about the heart-brain connection before. I should probably find that show and bring up some clips of it. But in this clip, he describes how the heart knows long before the brain does. Listen to this.
We have neurons in the heart. We have neurons in the brain. The Journal of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, it said there's compelling evidence to suggest that the human heart is coupled to a field of energy that is not limited by the laws of physics. That means there's a part of us that is designed to transcend the limits of time and space. That's deep intuition. That's how a mother in Australia, I'm talking about this in the book, she knows when her son in Afghanistan is in trouble before his commanding officer does, because she intuitively picked this up. There has to be a communication. Now, we talk about it anecdotally, but what is that information flowing through? It's flowing through that field. Call it the field, the Planck field, the 0-point field, the matrix, the divine matrix. The point is that it's only through this biological mechanism that we attune to a part of ourselves that doesn't live in this physical body. And when we begin to replace our physical body with synthetics, we lose the ability.
You lose the connection that you have as a living human being to your intuitive capacity. And if you look at people who are most heavily on drugs, their ability to reason and their ability to perceive it's truncated. It's just cut off. And I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures of these xylazine zombies, and they're bent over. It is shocking to see the living dead walking on the streets of America. And this has been allowed, by the way. It's been allowed. 100,000 people dead as a result of fentanyl and other such drugs. But you see, after a while, then ordinary drugs just don't have the effect, because the more you try to escape from reality, the stronger the drug you need. Because after a while, you see, your conscience is trying to catch up to you. It's trying to reconnect you. You ever see the Terminator with the liquid metal robots? And you know how they used to, in the movies, in the Terminator movies, they blow the robot apart, and all of a sudden they would start to recoalesce together. From all the disparate places that the pieces have been, and all the liquid metal like mercury just coalesces and it turns back into that thing. But this is on the positive side. The positive side is your conscience. You could try to blow it up with drugs and every other sick thing that separates you from God, but God wants you back. God wants you back because you have something that he gave you that needs to go back to him. It's called your soul. It is inextinguishable, that part of you, and he wants it back. And so, as many times as people try to blow up their soul, it recoalesces back into the shape that God created it to be. The consciousness wants to re-emerge. And this is the only, sometimes people, sadly, horribly, and I believe almost always unnecessarily. I don't know if there's a time where people that take their own lives, it's necessary. Maybe there is a moment like that. I don't know. God help me not to know. But there's only one way out, right? And it's two doors, two different doors with the same result. When you end your life on this earth, when it's done, there's just two different doors right next to each other, door 1 or door 2. You live your life, and what the Bible says is those who endure to the end will be saved. So you got to take all these difficult tests, and you've got to learn something from every one of them so that the learning process is completed. the mission for you to discover some truth that aligns you with whatever purpose God had for you on this earth. But the other side, the other door number 2, is that you run away from that into an eternity of escape from, and you don't even know that's what you're doing. Then when these trance people do what they do, when they allow themselves to be influenced in a state of psychosis, the psychosis is induced, and then it takes over as their pilot. It pilots them right into hell. So I'm just saying, if you have a sense that you have the ability to distinguish between what is right and wrong, and yet the world has tried to pull you away in 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 different ways to pull you away from knowing the truth that sets you free. You just have that sense of things and you start to become more aware of the things that are pulling at you. The awareness itself creates a barrier between you and it. And eventually you have the ability, without even resisting, to see the truth and know the truth that sets you free. And that's really, see, there's no actual effort. It's really about endurance. It's about not, okay, a perfect example of this is Groundhog Day, the movie with Bill Murray. If you haven't seen Groundhog Day, the movie, you have to see that movie. It's considered one of the most metaphysical movies ever made, believe it or not, because he starts out as a selfish monster, narcissistic, and all the rest of it. And then he starts waking up every day, and it's the same day over and over again. And he just has to start that day as if nothing ever progresses. Nothing ever changes, except for the one thing that changes is him. So I'm not going to tell you the movie. It's a beautiful, powerful, great movie. And it's a perfect example of how if you just get up every day and you make, I used to say to people, if you learn one thing a day, that's 365 things a year. And in 3 years, it's a lot of stuff that you've learned. You've learned 1,000 new things in, you see what I'm saying, in 3 years. So my point is very simple. Learn something about yourself every day. See something about yourself every day. And life begins to change. Now, here's a man whose name is Nate Kozseth, apparently a minister. His message is super powerful. It is super important. Listen to what he has to say.
My name is Nate. I died last week, and a lot of people have asked me what I saw. And I want to tell you, I want to share it with you. I'll probably get emotional, so I'm just going to tell you. I died for over a minute. When I died, I was transferred instantly to this room. And I stood up, and then this angel starts walking towards me. And then as he stands like in front of me, he says, I know this isn't what you want to hear right now, but you're dead. Instantly, this book appears in front of him. And he starts listing every single thing I've done in my life, like every single minute, things I said, things I've done. And then the angel says, you hypocrite, you've cursed his name. You've used his name in vain. You've broken every single commandment. You hypocrite. You were a pastor. You did all these things in my name, yet you still fall so short. Then out of nowhere, God appears, and you can't see his face. He's so radiant, but he was like sitting down, and all this stuff was flashing before me, and God and the angel were looking at it, and I knew I was in deep trouble. And as I was getting ready to be judged, out in the distance, I hear, stop. And then everything freezes. And then you see this figure walking towards you. And there's like huge light on him. And it's a light that we can't even describe. The colors in heaven, they don't even have a name. It's colors that we've never seen. And I'm standing there and I hear stop. And this figure starts walking towards me. And I see a glow. And then I see a robe. And it's the bottom of it has gold. And he's walking towards me, and I start seeing the nail holes. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. And he says, stop. He's one of mine. And then God the Father and the angel looked at each other, and Jesus said, I'm all he has. I'm all he has. It's very emotional. When you see the Son of God, I fell to my knees and started singing, holy, holy, holy. And then God told me, he goes, okay, my son knows you. Welcome to heaven.
Man, that's just so powerful. Just so powerful. If you think about it objectively, you'll see he doesn't want to lose a single soul. If there's something that makes God cry, it's losing a single soul. So, be still and know. Be still and know. That's the antidote for all of this. Believe it or not. FHU.com. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So, what you have to understand too about this bigger picture is that don't judge yourself, because what you have lost touch with is where this all started. Yes, you don't have to go back and excavate, dig up the bones. You don't have to do that. It will be revealed to you if it's needed. But yeah, you just have to step back and realize that it all happened to you without you. And this is the important part of this whole story, that it wasn't an original permission given by you for the hypnotic influences. So you're actually not even guilty. It would be like being at the scene of a bank robbery and just being a witness to it, and then them rounding you up and saying, you were there. But it doesn't make you guilty of anything. The guilt of our lives is in denial of the truth. And this is what psychosis is all about. So, Greg Braden talks about mirror neurons. I want you to understand this.
We have a class of neurons in the neocortex called mirror neurons. A mirror neuron will fire under one of two conditions: when we have an experience or when we witness someone else having an experience. The neuron doesn't know the difference between having and watching the experience. So that's why you can lie on the couch on a Sunday afternoon and watch a soccer game. You're lying down, you're prone, and your heart might be racing, your muscles are tense, you're perspiring, but you're just lying there. And this is the reason, because these neurons don't know the difference. So think about what this means. When those neurons see a healing, for example, rather than a sports game, those neurons don't know the difference between watching and being the healing. They will begin sending the signals to the body to facilitate the healing that they believe that they are having. We have a class of neurons in the neocortex called mirror neurons. A mirror neuron will fire under one of two conditions: when we have an experience or when we witness someone else having an experience.
So here's the deal. You're at a bank robbery and you're a witness to the robbery, and the robbers look at you and give you a thumbs up and tell you this is what you are going to do. Now, maybe there's a part of everybody that says, yeah, that's the easy way to make money. Or, and then there's a part of it that says that these people are evil. But at some point, trauma has a way of eroding your confidence in your original self. So we all have trauma. We're all subject to the swings and the ebbs and the flows of trauma, things that we had no control over. And so this is what we have to return to, this ability to control our reaction to the world. And if we have that ability, then the world has very little influence over us. Very little. Very, very little. Here comes the Roy Masters. Well, let's see here. Let me play.
Each one in their own way. Indoctrination is indoctrination. You just got a different behavior. The indoctrination principle is the same. Can you recognize that other people are indoctrinated? Can you see whether you are indoctrinated? The fact that you're insulted by what I said is a sign of indoctrination. A guaranteed, indisputable. You're talking to a person who knows how to do it. And if I know how to do it, I know one thing that they don't know, how to undo it. But I'll cut to the point. The reason why you can't solve your problems and you get sicker and sicker is because indoctrination, the freedom to choose your lifestyle, as if that was free choice, and to kill your baby if you have to, that's free choice. That's a freedom. That's the right to choose. You have a right to be wrong, but it's not right to be wrong. So it's sort of like a skew of what choosing really is. Now, how many people heard me and loved it and know that they're victims? That's what I'm looking for. How do any of you know that you're living in a world without truth? That wherever you go, not even on O'Reilly will you get any truth. You get truths about, an apple is on the table. That's the truth. And I don't know, pick one. And you get certain facts, like 33% of people who are married, men, die from heart attacks from the stress. They call those statistics, right, David?
Yeah.
Not all statistics are true, are they? They can make those up, so you can make up your mind where you, in a wrong way, where you would have made it up in the right way, right? Even that's manipulated.
Oh, yeah. You see, the truth that sets you free is a little different than the truth that's just the truth. Yeah, the sky is blue. There's clouds in the sky. Blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of variations and degrees of truth, but the truth that makes you free, know the truth and it will make you free. The truth. Again, Jesus was speaking about himself. Know the truth. He was the way, the truth, and the life. And maybe I should play this clip of Nate. I can't. It's just like I don't know what kind of name it is. Seth, who died, and he was in the presence of God, and he was going to get smited, and Jesus intervened and said, "No, I'm all he's got." You see, bottom line, what do you got? What do you have? What do you have? You have your vape or your drink or your food. Does that save you? What saves you? What saves you? That's the question. And save you for or from what? All right, quick break, FHU.com. Do please find out about the Be Still and Know exercise. It will change everything for you. FHU.com. I'll be right back. And welcome back. How about we get into some Roy Masters here, talking about conscience, because again, the mass formation psychosis is what separates you from your conscience, your ability to receive information from above. One of my chat friends says, Eyes to See says, be still in Hebrew means to let go, release, relax, cease striving, or drop your hands. It implies surrender rather than just silence. Yes. I mean, you really actually have no ability to be silent. All you have is the ability to let go, release, relax, cease striving, and drop your hands and stop struggling. That's all you got. You don't have anything else. Because if you're not, then you're the effect of some other cause. All right.
We were talking about judgment and condemnation. Well, I just read a little bit to you. The light of your earthly eye is perception. The light of your earthly life is perception. Look at that word perception. Therefore, if your perception is without fault, what does that mean? Your whole life shall be enlightened. If your perception be evil, your whole life shall be darkened by it. If the light for you is darkness, how deep will your darkness become? Man cannot follow two masters. He will hate one and dearly love the other. One he will honor, the other he will despise. Which one will you despise? Will you despise your conscience and love your local dog pusher? Will you hate the good and embrace the bad who love you as you are? That's called dictatorship. You can actually elect away your freedoms if you have a darkened mind like that. And that needs to be kept in the dark by those who rise from the earth as if you croon sweetly for its presence. Man cannot follow two masters, for you hate one and dearly love the other. One he will honor, you'll become what you hate. Bad people are people who live in fear and trembling, have no courage, and take on the identity, take on the nature through servitude. You actually take on the identity of what you serve. The coward, if you put him in charge of something, is worse than the master. He will become his willing executioner and get approval for it because it's a deadly nature. It's a murderous nature. If you hate somebody, you'll become what you hate. You take on the identity of that. God knows what you will do. May try to suppress it, but you will not understand what you're dealing with so long as you hate evil because it wants you to hate it. It wants you to resent it. There's the right word. It wants you to resent it. There's two forces you're caught between: the power of injustice. Injustice is a power. It's purposely unjust. There's the light of justice and the dark light of injustice. So you respond to injustice. You think the world's a perfect place. You come into the world. You don't expect your parents to be crazy and to dysfunctional and your schools to be the way they are and people to be the way crazy look. But they've all preceded you and they've all got the treatment. Their perceptions have been darkened and they've been programmed to be this. You're born in Borneo, you'll be a cannibal. You're born in the West Bank, you'll be a suicide bomber. You're born in America, you might be a Christian or an atheist because you have choices here. But you get programmed and you will defend the programming and the programmer because that's your base, the dark God, the dark world. It makes you feel like you're God. What makes you feel good when you're bad is evil.
Yeah, you can just look at this whole idea of judging yourself, because I have had that experience of hearing that alternative voice that was not mine, judging me with my voice. You're no good. You're just rotten. I heard it. And you see, this is a key, because to be able to discern the difference between who you are and who you are not. And for decades, I've talked about the you and the not you. My dad used to talk about that endlessly. There's a you and there's a not you. But it sounds like you. It takes over your thought process, your mental faculties, and it messes with you. And you have a tendency to think, oh yeah, that's true. I am rotten. I'm no good. God doesn't love me. Blah, blah, blah. And see, what it is part of this is that it's what you've learned. Part of it is what you've learned.
We have a class of neurons in the neocortex called mirror neurons. A mirror neuron will fire under one of two conditions: when we have an experience or when we witness someone else having an experience. The neuron doesn't know the difference between having and watching the experience. So that's why you can lie on the couch on a Sunday afternoon and watch a soccer game. You're lying down, you're prone, and your heart might be racing, your muscles are tense, you're perspiring, but you're just lying there. And this is the reason, because these neurons don't know the difference. So think about what this means. When those neurons see a healing, for example, rather than a sports game, those neurons don't know the difference between watching and being the healing. They will begin sending the signals to the body to facilitate the healing that they believe that they are having. We have a class of neurons in the neocortex called mirror neurons. A mirror neuron, we have a class of neurons in the neocortex called mirror neurons. A mirror neuron will fire under one of two conditions.
So there you have it. I don't think it can be said strongly enough. If you're judging yourself, well, where did that come from? I mean, you're not born with the capacity or the proclivity to judge yourself or other people. You're just not born that way. Think about it objectively. You're not born with any of these proclivities. It's something that you learn. Don't you see it? And therefore, if you identify, I know that in the Soviet Union, what they had a saying: "Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime." Well, basically, that's what the devil does. The devil will pick you out, and because you have a proclivity maybe toward the good Lord, the devil wants you even more. The devil wants something that he shouldn't have. He wanted Jesus. Jesus broke hell because the devil wanted Jesus. He wasn't subject to the laws that would have made him a prisoner of hell. But the truth is that since Jesus came into this world, and it is a truth that Jesus did come into this world, and that he was translated in the tomb. We're operating under a new set of laws of forgiveness. But the first thing, and I mean, I've done a lot of research on this subject of spontaneous remission. People who are dying of terminal diseases, something shifts in the way that they look at themselves and life. And all of a sudden, the terminal disease begins to go away, goes into remission. There's something about a shift. It's powerful, shifting perspective. But I think that that's part of knowing the truth that sets you free, because in a sense, you are not either guilty of the things except for by default. You haven't just looked at it and said, oh my gosh, I never realized that I was this way out of all these influences that I allowed myself to be a puppet. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. And some people do, and some people say, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But God wants you to have everything you ever wanted. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's a shift toward knowing the truth. That's it. What is it? What's making me sick? Why am I unhappy? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it may be, but you have to lean into it. You have to lean toward it. You have to move incrementally, I guess, toward the light, toward the knowing of the truth that sets you free. It's that simple. It isn't rocket science. It's simple. It's metaphysical. Right? Metaphysical. Beyond this world. Forces at work. And I'm telling you, God doesn't want to lose a single soul, but he gives you a choice. You either know the truth that makes you free and sets you free, or you say, no, I don't want to know. All right, quick break here. FHU.com, be still and know is the exercise. I'll be right back. Stay tuned. The excitement of feeling good about yourself and judging somebody else. And it rules over you, but you don't see it because it helps to put out your light. It helps to dull your perception and embracing those who make you feel good about doing despicable things. It comforts you in it. Whole nations rise. Governments rise like that. Germans elected away their democracy and became a dictatorship. They voted it away. They did that in Venezuela. They voted their democracy, such as it is, because they were an immoral people. When you have an immoral people, as in America, as you have more and more immoral people, they have no tolerance for nobility. It feels like a straitjacket. The people who are noble and moral naturally good, are juxtaposed to those who are unnaturally bad, and like it that way. But the fact that you exist, it feels like an imposition to them. It feels like you are laying a trip on them, trying to control them. They've become paranoid. They want to put your lights out. They want to kill you. Genocide. Do that in mass. It's called genocide. Always the innocent, right? You're not going to fight something bigger than yourself because you've been transformed by something meaner than yourself. You're a clone, creating clones. You do unto others what was done unto you. You rather rule in hell and serve in heaven, see? So you rule over something. And the frontline soldier doing despicable things. Well, he gets the spoils of war and pillages and murders and rapes. That's what they do, those kind of people. Better stand your ground. But how do you do that? You have to have had clear sight as to what you're dealing with. But the media, the world around you will meddle with your perception. So the light of your earthly life, happiness, is perception. And the perception you were born with when you saw the injustice, you couldn't believe it. It overwhelmed you, and you end up hating, and then you couldn't face what was becoming of you, and you didn't know how to deal with the world except try to placate it, appease it, get along. All you got was more abused. Isn't that right? That's why you're ill. All that anger inside you is bottled up. You want to be a good person, but badness is growing in you, and you're confused, you're lost. Cheer up. Embrace the truth of what I said. It's a little bit negative, but it's true. You do have that light. Don't be upset with yourself. Look at the world. There are good people in it. There are good people like yourself, lost like yourself. They're there. You can't distinguish them sometimes because they're acting bad like you do. You're acting weird. You're angry. You're weak. You're wimpy. You're drunk. You're a drug addict. Who are you to judge everybody? But you do. You've got friends that support you the way you are. That lot of good that is. What kind of friends they are? They're called fiends. But they've also got friends. They've also been demoralized. They need your fiendship. You need their fiendship. Thieves and robbers, loving thieves and robbers. That's all we are. What profit when we love that way? So don't you see, our perceptions are upheld by false love. Anger separating us from godly love. And then making us need the worldly love. We fall when we're angry. We are separated from the good. Anger, resentment separates us from the good by which we can overcome the evil. In comes evil. In comes dark side. And it's got a nature that cries out to what created it or recreated it inside you in its image. Therefore, you cry to the world. You cry to materiality, other people for reassurance. Damned if you get it, damned if you don't. How many different ways can I say this?
Each one in their own way. Indoctrination is indoctrination. You just got a different behavior. The indoctrination principle is the same. Can you recognize that other people are indoctrinated? Can you see whether you are indoctrinated? The fact that you're insulted by what I said is a sign of indoctrination. A guaranteed, indisputable. You're talking to a person who knows how to do it. And if I know how to do it, I know one thing that they don't know, how to undo it. But I'll cut to the point. The reason why you can't solve your problems and you get sicker and sicker is because indoctrination, the freedom to choose your lifestyle, as if that was free choice, and to kill your baby if you have to, that's free choice. That's a freedom. That's the right to choose. You have a right to be wrong, but it's not right to be wrong. So it's sort of like a skew of what choosing really is. Now, how many people heard me and loved it and know that they're victims? That's what I'm looking for. How do many of you know that you're living in a world without truth? That wherever you go, not even on O'Reilly will you get any truth. You get truths about, an apple is on the table. That's the truth. And I don't know, pick one. And you get certain facts, like 33% of people who are married, men, die from heart attacks from the stress. They call those statistics, right, David?
Yeah.
Not all statistics are true, are they? They can make those up, so you can make up your mind where you, in a wrong way, where you would have made it up in the right way, right? Even that's manipulated. Polls are manipulated. So you make up your mind, so you think, oh, my party's losing. And it happened in the last election where the results were announced before ahead of time, when one party was ahead. And in the last hour or so, the other party moved ahead a little bit more, and so on and so forth. And so that was also a way of making you disheartened and say, well, I don't have to go to the polls now because it's already decided. See, manipulation. And so what you've got, especially MoveOn.org, those associated are soulless, mindless bastards. I didn't say who they were. But everyone associated with those are stalkers, listening to every word people like myself say, recording everything. And I'm not paranoid. I know they do it. I know they're the kind. And spinning, give them a chance to spin something and say something I didn't say. And with the power of their trumpets and their loudspeakers and their bully pulpits, wherever they have them, the power structure, it will become a believable thing.
As you talk about indoctrination, I remember when I was watching 60 Minutes, the program with Mike Wallace, when he interviewed Patricia Hearst about being a member of the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Yeah, I remember that.
She was brainwashed and forced to rob a bank, but
yeah. She wasn't forced to. She did that. She wasn't forced. She actually
she was indoctrinated.
That's right.
She was indoctrinated. She was psychologically tortured and indoctrinated. And what she said, and I never forgot it from that, I was 20 years old or so. He said, did you participate willingly or were you brainwashed? And she said, I would rather believe that I did it of my own free will than to believe that I could be brainwashed.
And I think that was
I never forgot that
interview later on when she was pardoned. But that's true. You cannot believe that the things that you are made to do, killing your own baby, for example, in abortion, you cannot believe that this is something you have been made to do. You want to believe that it was your choice and your right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a program that he did on the indoctrination principle. And you've all been indoctrinated. You've all been programmed. Talks about not judging and not judging yourself. See, this is a part of the problem because let's just say you want to be a good Christian and you don't want to judge others, but you still may be judging yourself, and that's the same thing, except for it's worse because you're condemning yourself as opposed to other people. It doesn't work out either way. You don't understand this, everything. I started up the show today with talking about how I thought that the Nancy Guthrie thing is a psyop. They are controlling our attention. Don't you see it? All right, quick break, FHU.com. Find out about the Be Still and No exercise. All right, and welcome back. Now, there's something else that I want to go into here, which is on this whole, it's on the same level as the indoctrination principle. And this is, in this day and age, we are dealing with some very strange phenomenon. Very strange. They call it high strangeness. The entire UAP, UFO phenomenon. But the question is, what is it really that we're dealing with? That's the question. What are we dealing with? So I happened to hear a conversation on the Jesse Michaels podcast with Peter Levenda. And this guy is to the Stars Foundation. They're looking into this whole thing of the supernatural aspects of the phenomenon. And this is just a very interesting perspective on what they call classified truth. classified. Like it's not you can't even begin to consider this truth. Here it is.
When people are claimed they've been abducted by aliens, there's so much assumed in that statement that we've become blocked to it. We don't understand what it means. Define alien, define abduction, define what happened to you. Can you explain it? The reports of people are remarkably similar, I think, in writing in many places. We know people talk about moments of losing consciousness, of going through space, going through walls, going through physical material. You're on board some kind of craft. They're calling it a craft. We don't know it's a craft, but they claim they're in this thing, this environment. And in this environment, it's smooth surfaces. There's nothing going on there. There's no weird dials. There's no, 1950s science fiction kind of stuff going on. It's a completely different situation. They have some unpleasant experiences, and then they're back home. We members of To the Stars have talked about this. Jim Semivan has been very open about his experience about this. These events take place. These are consciousness events, but we're interpreting it through a different lens. We're saying something came on, picked up this person, and took them someplace. That's the experience. That's the conscious experience, but there's no proof of it. There isn't a hole in the wall that they dragged you through or a broken window. There's like the cops would say on the crime procedurals, there was no visible means. Nobody broke into the house. No locks have been jimmied. Nothing has happened. So this is a consciousness event. Can we interpret it now? No, because we don't have the tools.
Yeah. So again, they're finally starting to get to this thing that I've been sort of stabbing at for years. That this whole idea of us being visited, but we've been visited for thousands of years. I mean, God flooded the earth for this reason, according to the Bible anyway, that we're dealing not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers. And the enlightenment, maybe this is the new enlightenment, that we are actually dealing with things that have been present since the original fall of the angels that were thrown out of heaven with their leader or their misleader, as it were. And we have to begin to realign again our mind and our understanding that when you hear a story such as this minister told about, having a near-death experience, heaven is a construct maybe more real than the construct that we live in called Earth. But so is the dark side. The dark side is a construct. And so if you look at it objectively, even atoms are not what they appear to be. Even scientists now on the subatomic level have rethought their whole understanding of the laws of physics. The deeper you look into things, the more you realize that things are not what they appear to be. And so just looking at this indoctrination idea is that we are actually led way ahead of time. Just like, and I hate to use this example, but the Jewish people that were rounded up in Nazi Germany that were led out into a field and then eliminated and tossed into a mass grave. We are being led down this path to stand at the opening of the mass grave. I mean, that's what's happening. There's something at work trying to lead us in the wrong direction all day long, every day. And this is why Jesus said, know the truth, and it shall make you free.
You're right. And there was a time when being safe as a baby in its mother's womb was a reality, and now it's not. You have armies of bitches, excuse the expression, and sons of those, who will march through the streets for the right to kill their babies. And why would they do that? Because SOBs, they've been freed from their conscience to live a life of a whore. And let's put it in plain English, to live a life of empowerment and not to be brought up as a lady and a woman, a gracious woman, and loving and having the full joy of enjoying her children. No, she's been liberated. She's been turned against men and unconsciously enjoys their downfall. When you speak truthfully about it, being independent and being noble and living perfectly in the perfect way, the whole idea of living perfectly in the next moment or learning how to deal properly in the next moment scares everybody. You'd think that they would come to my website, the foundation website, FHU.com, in droves. No, they run away. They run for cover. They run for reassurance from all the liars. They're lie lovers. And so, coming back to the abortion, the reason why is because they've been sold a lie. They bought it. Now it's a political religion. It is a seduction of the country, and now they have a right, because once you've been seduced to do something wrong, seduced to live a life of perversion, once you've been seduced to that, that's like a drug. Once you enjoy the high of making someone dependent and bringing them to a new low, you know what's going on, you become the manipulator. It doesn't mean to say that it won't backfire and you become manipulated. When you do, you're left with a baby. And when you do, you have hatred towards the man and not seeing your own responsibility. And when faced with responsibility, you run from it because it's like holding up a cross to a vampire. And you turn the frustration out on the unborn baby. That's cowardice for you, isn't it? Because time is coming when the world needs to wake up and come from under the iron fist of tyranny, the tyranny of drugs, the tyranny of tyrants, big and small, family tyrants, local tyrants, school tyrants, and despots that rule countries. We all have to learn to find that light within us, and then the world will be a much more beautiful place. There's going to be resistance, of course. The resistance will make you strong. It will test your fidelity to what you know is right. Your problems are not over. You'll just get through them just fine. See? And there needs to be more of us. The reason why there aren't more is because they kill them all. See, like you see what's happening in Iraq. They don't want freedom. The drug pushers are addicted to the life of the pushovers. They live from your dying, don't you see? Our world is dying, and it's a bad place. We do unto others what was done to us in the military chain of command, with the chief cannibal at the top, or vampire at the top, passing our life all the way up to the top. We can't say no to the chieftain. Can't say no. Can't say no to the person that bullies you into submission, so on and so forth. It's got to stop. I would love to have you to see what I'm saying and help you to have the power over your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own life. And then you'll see how quickly your diseases and your problems disappear. New ones will reappear as you stand in the light of a jealous world. People are jealous, angry, and threatened by what hopefully I can show you how to become.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, there was nobody like him. Nobody. Not in this world, anyway. Not in our current world. Because intuition flows from that construct. And one way or another, it's like I was talking the other day about how rock stars are asked, how did you write this amazing song? Like it was Led Zeppelin, I think it was. I don't know. It just came to me, it flows through me. But the same thing happens on a positive scale, that there's a flow of consciousness that you either are open to and available to, or there's something in your deeper self that blocks it. And see, if you take a look at the word of definition of disease, dis-ease, one of the pseudonyms for disease is wickedness. Now, I'm not saying everybody that has ailment is a wicked person. That's not what I'm saying. But it is clear that there's something that blocks the ability of the body to heal and to recover and to become stronger. And so there's this construct that we are rooted in. If you see it objectively, You're either rooted in the truth or you're rooted in something else. And then when things go wrong in your life and things go bad and sideways and you're sitting there wondering, but it's weird because there's even something that blocks you from even wondering the right questions. You ever notice that? There's interferences that try to scramble the signals. Yeah, it's true. There's some force, especially if you're one that's going to wake up. The forces are arrayed against you. The dark side throws everything it can at you to try to disable you from rising to a higher level. That's just the way it is. And of course, if you have the Be Still and Know exercise, that is a fortification. It allows you to step back, see it for what it is, detect it, and deflect it. FHU.com. You'll find out more about the Be Still and Know. FHU.com. All right, more on this topic. I do believe that this clip I'm about to play for you is a Greg Braden clip. Let's see.
If you said, okay, I'm going to work with my body and I'm going to start breathing and I'm going to start feeling emotions that I do want to feel, the heart starts producing a very profound signal. It starts to produce an external magnetic field. It's measurable. So now you have a coherent brain, which means you can get very intentional, and you have a coherent heart, which means you can feel the emotions of your future before it happens. Somehow you have this broadcasting of this Wi-Fi signal, and the brain tends to be electrical in nature, so it sends out an electrical charge into the field. The heart is the magnetic charge. It's what draws things to us. It's the magnetic field. And now you actually, by changing the way you think and the way you feel, you're changing the signal in the field. And if you're able to maintain that state for an extended period of time, I say something magical is going to happen in your life.
Again, this is he's talking about meditation. I don't know if that was Bruce Lipton or Greg Braden. Here is a couple more clips on healing from Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, from the documentary, which is called Heal, Heal. I don't know where you can find it. It was on Netflix or Amazon, one or the other.
So here's the point. Genetically identical cells in 3 dishes, but slightly different environment because of the chemistry. In one dish, the cells form muscle. In a second dish, the cells form bone. And in a third dish, the cells form fat cells. Significance? What controls the fate of the cells? Point? They were all genetically identical. The environment is what was selecting the genetic activity of the cells.
The environment. See, how many times do I have to say it? It's not literally the environment, but it's how the cells respond to the environment. Here comes another one.
People who have the same DNA, who have the same susceptibility to illness, one can become ill and the other can stay well. One can heal and the other can't, all because they optimize the environmental factors that control gene activity. And that's what the field of epigenetics is all about.
The nature of biology is simple. Biological organisms adapt their biology to fit into an environment. Let's say I'm looking at the activity of my liver cells in the body. And I say, well, my liver cells should be adjusting to what's going on in the environment. And I say, well, how does a liver cell know what's going on in the environment? The answer is this. The liver cell is not touching the environment. It depends on the nervous system to send information about the environment inside the body so the cells adjust their biology to match what's going on in the world.
Should I have to play that again just so you can hear what he just said? Because it's the environment that we are interacting with that is having all of these interesting effects on us, either both positive or negative. It's the environment. But it's not the environment, it's our interaction with it, the way that we look at it, how we deal with it. And how many times have you heard it said, it's not what happens, but how you deal with it. And this goes to the idea that you have a choice about how you deal with it. It has a huge effect. Huge. More than you can possibly comprehend. The way you deal with life and the way you look at yourself, because I'll tell you something else about this. The way you feel about yourself, one way or another, is how you feel about your creator. So if you think that God is a selfish beast, or if you think God is a benevolent, loving God, it's how you feel about yourself. It starts with you. And that begins to affect your relationship with the environment. One more from Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Well, we only have one problem in that, and that is this. Consciousness is an interpretation. So my mind is interpreting the environment. So if I change my perception, my mind, change my belief about life, I change the signals that are going in and adjusting the function of the cell. The point is very, very significant. I, by my ability to change my environment and by my ability to change my perception of the environment, have the ability to control my genetic activity. I'm not a victim of my heredity. I'm a master of my genetic activity.
Well, and I've told the story about when he was reading an article somebody sent him about the one thing that all cancer victims have in common that this one doctor discovered in looking at 500 different patients is that at some level they all felt like they were a victim. Do you feel like you're a victim? Because you can overcome that, and with it, overcoming the sense of victimization, letting go of anger and judgment and fear and all that's attached to that allows your body to realign. And again, I will just say it. The Be Still and Know exercise is unlike any other type of mindfulness meditation experience because it is the opposite of doing. It is the not doing. It is the not continuing. It is not peeling off the scab and opening the wound, but letting it heal. That's what the Be Still and Know exercise really, really is about. And that's why it works, because you cannot fix the problem by dipping in for a solution where the problem exists. You just have to step back from it. That's really what it boils down to. And there you go. Know the truth and it shall make you free. But you can always say, no, I don't want to know. And go back to, God wants you to have everything you ever wanted. You can always do that too. Not that it's a good option. FHU.com or P.O. Box 1000, Grants Pass, Oregon 97528. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.
Right on.
Oh, yeah.
Let go and let God, as it were.
Isn't that the truth?
Okay. Christian, you in here? Okay, I will shut things down here. David, can I get a little audio from you for a second?
Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Okay, yeah. It was a spaces issue yet again today. I have not figured out the problem.